Hello and welcome to my latest episode. My name on Instagram is Orchid's Heart and I'm coming to you from Birmingham in England. Appear to be getting slightly awkward there, sorry. I'm trying out a slightly new setup. A year or two ago I bought a microphone using some money kindly donated on my Ko-fi account, which is linked below if you would like to donate or support my podcast at all. But sadly it wasn't compatible with the last phone I had, so I couldn't figure out how to get it to work, and it appears that it does work with this phone, so that's good. That's very exciting. So yeah, coincidentally someone did complain about the sound quality in the last video, and I just wanted to say this is a hobby. I don't really earn very much money from this. I mean, not enough to compensate my time or energy at all. Like a little bit of pocket money that might buy the odd skein of nice yarn, but not enough to be buying fancy kit or, you know, a proper camera or anything like that. So I kind of make do and I try to enjoy it. I don't want to start doing something that I don't enjoy, because I have a job, I have a family, my life is full of things already. So this is a hobby. So I mean, hopefully this is a bit better. I don't really know what I'm doing with tech. I'm just kind of figuring out as I go, very, very, very slowly. But anyway, you know, let me know if it is better. I hope so. If it's not, then I don't know. If you are watching and you find it hard to hear, I mean, the sound on my laptop, the speakers are completely dead anyway, have been for years, and I have to use headphones or an external speaker to watch or listen to anything. But I highly recommend using either of those things if you want to turn up the volume a bit more if I am a bit quiet, or any other podcasts that you watch that are also DIYing the recording situation. But I have my second cup of coffee of the day. The baby is asleep. I should stop calling him the baby. He's nearly 2. He's my baby. He's asleep. So if you hear any strange noises, as usual, it is the monitor maybe making some noise. And I have a bit of a pile of yarn next to me here. So this is a slightly different episode. I kind of organically decided this year, it wasn't like an immediate conscious decision, but I decided that I was going to knit what brought me joy. There were things that I want to knit, but I wasn't necessarily in the mood to knit them at the time. So with the exception of a couple of gift knits I'm doing at the moment, I'm kind of knitting whatever the hell I want, which did mean that I bought some yarn that I really didn't need to buy at a few different points so far in the year. But if I'm being completely honest, I've had a bit of a difficult mental health sort of time over the last few months. You know, some of you that follow me on Instagram or watch me here, I've been quite unwell quite often. Not quite at a year having been back at work and little one being at nursery. It's probably more like 10 months. Most people say it takes a year. I feel like I'm coming through it now. It's been really, really awful. I feel like I've been more ill than my peers in this situation, and I've struggled a bit more. I don't know why. So anyway, I decided to be kind to myself where I can, and that involved knitting what I want, when I want, not feeling guilty about long-standing whips, and not feeling guilty about having things on my queue for a long time that I don't really feel like knitting, even if I do have the yarn for. And so I was watching someone else who did a bit of a queue on Ravelry, looking through their queue and just knocking things off and getting rid of things that they intended to knit. And though I didn't want to delete things from my queue that I did want to knit and did have the yarn for, I have noticed that what I am drawn to knitting has changed a bit over the years, and I am learning what I am drawn to knitting, but also what I am drawn to wear. And they might be two slightly different things, and I'm trying to align my knitting more with what I will know I will wear. So all that being said, there are a few things in my queue, like the Alpenglow by Andrew Mowry. I've been wanting to knit that for a really long time. I do have the yarn for it, but I don't think I would actually wear it. It's very colourful. The colours I've got are like teal, yellow and orange. And it'd be beautiful, but I don't wear jeans, and I feel like that is something that would be most worn with jeans. I mean, it would just be too colourful to go with anything else that I tend to wear. So that doesn't mean I'm not going to knit it. I might still, because it might be something, I was going to knit it as a cardigan rather than a pullover, that maybe I'd wear to work with some smart trousers, in which case I might wear it more often then. But yeah, I'm going through a real change in the way that I dress. I think when you go through a big life change, in my case becoming a parent, it does make you kind of question your style, and I guess how the world perceives you a bit more. I don't want to be perceived as just a mum. Not that there's anything wrong with being just a mum, but I still want to have my creativity represented, and I think I'm struggling with that a bit at the moment. So, all that being said, I went through my favourites on Ravelry. I had a bit of a think about the yarn I've got, had a bit of a think about the things I already had planned, and I realised I was really drawn to the nature motifs, the sort of natural colours, greens, although I'm surprised by how much blue is here, considering I'm not really a blue person. And yeah, so that's going to be represented in these new projects that I am thinking of casting on over the next year or so. And so some of these are things I would like to knit, and I think I might have a suitable yarn in stash, but maybe I'm not 100% sold on the yarn pattern combo. So the first one I'm going to start with is the Bloomstring Slipover by Fibertails. So I'll put a picture on screen. I think she looks beautiful in this photo. And slipovers and tabard style garments are something that I think, styled in a photo in a particular way, look really, really gorgeous. But this bugger's doing my head in. But I don't know whether I would just feel like a potato in a sack. But I've seen so many people wearing them. I saw Eula from Wollentine wearing her slipover by Petite Knit, can't remember the name of it, and it looked really classy and gorgeous. It didn't look like a sack of potato situations. It looked like really, I thought, quite chic. And she said it was quite good because it was like a woolen layer, but it wasn't too overbearing heat-wise. So again, really good for work. And I thought I actually really like that combo. And I really like how this has got embroidered flowers on it. However, it does require a worsted weight yarn, which isn't something I knit with very often. So I kind of struggle when patterns say worsted weight. But I do have 2 plates of this in my stash, which is an unspun yarn. I can't remember what it is, sorry. It's not Plutolopi. I bought it at Wonderwool Wales a few years ago. And I think it's like double stranded the way it's been rolled together. I'm not entirely sure where the end is. So a bit like Manchalopi, I think it might be 2 together. And I have in my stash also some mohair, and in my memory I did think that these might go together with it a bit better. I did think about pairing, but I don't think they're actually the right colour. I remembered I have 3 of these in stash and 100 grams of this. So I've got 75 grams of this one and 100 grams of this one. And I thought that they would be the same colour, but they're not. I mean, it might still work. I'd have to do a bit of a swatch and see. But the problem is with doing unspun and mohair swatch, it'd be a nightmare to then rip back if I didn't like it. More on that later. So I don't know. Maybe I would need to buy a mohair to go with that, or maybe just 2 strands of that would be enough. Oh, the end. That is the end. There we go. I didn't know what the end was. Maybe that would be enough. I don't know. Another thing I've done with other projects is used like a lace weight woolly yarn, so not fluff, but something, because unspun breaks off really easily, and it's nice to have something to hold with it just to give it a bit of the tensioning and make it a bit easier. So perhaps I could get like maybe an alpaca strand, like say a alpaca 1. Could be quite nice, maybe, if they did a colour that went with it. But that's the kind of thing where I'd have to take this to the shop and pick out a yarn to go with it. So I will be going to a yarn shop in a couple of weeks in London, Knit with Attitude. I don't think I want to carry this around with me all day, but I could wrap a bit around a card and take it and see if anything takes my fancy. But then I would be committing to definitely doing that project, which is no bad thing. So it is a worsted weight pattern, and it requires about 700 meters. So I have no idea how much I've got. I've got 2 of these. I think it would be enough. I don't know. It is a shame because I have pretty much 700 meters exactly of this. So it's a shame it's not the right colour. This was one of those de-stash things I bought on a whim. I bought 3. I thought 3 skeins of mohair was quite a good amount, but I actually don't know what to do with it, so that was a bit daft. But it was really cheap. It was like £15 for 3. So, and it's Bichet Bouche Le Petite silken mohair, so it would have been quite expensive. But you know, I do have other thoughts about what maybe I could do with that, which I'll share in a bit. So that's the first one, project number 1. And the other thing which I would be casting on right now if it wasn't for the fact that I was knitting gift knits is the Isolda top. Isolda top. And I'm going to put the name of the design on screen because I don't even know how you would start saying that. Just going to check this is still lit up. Yes. The anxiety that it is recording is going to be a new one. And so this is a DK weight pattern and it's a striped summer top. And I have these in my stash. So a couple of years ago, my brother went to America. I think it was the year before last. And I to visit family. And so I ordered 3 skeins of linen quill, thinking I would make a shawl with the 3. But I didn't really like the 3rd colour, how it went. I liked it with this, or with this, but not all 3 together. And it was the mushroom colour, I think. I don't think this is the mushroom. Oh no, this is pale mushroom. So I don't know what the 3rd one was. It was a bit of a darker mauvey colour. But I thought these went together quite well and would look quite good for a summer top. So I could hold them double and I'd have more than enough to knit this summer top. And I thought that would be quite a nice pattern using something in my stash. And then I could use the remaining skein, hold it also double or single and do like a small shawl scarf situation because it's quite a nice combination. It's Highland wool, alpaca and linen. So I think that could feel quite nice as a small shawl, but I don't know which. Probably not a poet scarf because I would have knit a couple of those by then, maybe. But you know, could do. So that is another pattern which isn't on my list, but I could add in is the poet scarf. I have knit one before. Maybe I'll try and put a picture in of that one. And I wore it absolutely tons before the heat hit. And so I did buy kind of a neutrally greyish colour in the same yarn I knit my other one in to knit another one. So that's like another gorgeous sort of naturey inspired pattern. Obviously this one's more of a classic stripe situation, less on the naturey kind of inspiration, but nevertheless it is on my list of things to knit, so I'm going to share. To the kind of nature inspiration is something I've been wanting to knit for a really long time and just haven't gotten around to it because I didn't know how to style it, didn't know how to wear it, and I wasn't sure whether it was again one of those things that I really like on other people and would struggle to wear myself. But I'm really drawn to the folk art side of it and the interest in the heritage behind the design of the pattern is the Forest Keys vest by Teti Lutsak, which is a 4-ply pattern and requires about 750 meters in my size. I, however, do not have any suitable yarn for it. I would if I was doing it in 100% woolly wool, like she did. But I want to knit it in something that's a wool plant blend, so that I could wear it on its own in the warmer months as just a top. And so a few people suggested some ones I could look at in my last podcast, so I need to look that up. And I'm hoping that maybe the yarn shop I'm going to in a couple of weeks will have something suitable. But maybe not. We'll just have to see. It might be one of those ones that gets pushed back another year, or I might end up knitting it in 100% wool with something I already have. I'm looking at some yarn that I naturally dyed, but I think it's all DK or heavier, so it's probably not suitable. But I feel like if I get the colours just right, then that will make it more wearable. And actually, something that I haven't mentioned before is I do have Ukrainian heritage. So I do find it's not something I know very much about. I know, because I'm half American, how my family came over from over that way and emigrated to America, and so that's how I've ended up with that heritage. But I do sometimes, so it's very, very far back in my ancestry. I don't know anybody who lives over there now. But it's something I find very interesting. And with everything that's going on over there at the moment, it's something I think about sometimes. But yeah, her patterns are beautiful, very much nature inspired, and really, really lovely. So I'd love to support her and her work. I do have another one of her patterns on my list, which I will come to. These aren't in a particular order, it's just the order that I wrote them in. Not necessarily the order I'll knit them in, or what have you. It depends what I feel like knitting at the time. And so that brings me to my next one, which is something that I have wanted to knit for a while. And I do have the yarn and I do have the pattern, so it is going to happen. Whilst I was on my last bit of working full time in the lead up to my maternity leave, I bought some yarn in a sale, thinking I'd have all the time in the world whilst I was on maternity leave to do loads of knitting. And one of those projects I bought for was the Bakker Scarf by Fibre Tales, which I think, if I remember correctly, was inspired by the rolling hills out of her window of the new place that she bought. I mean, it was new when she released it, but she's been there a couple of years now. And I had this much left of my Plutelope skein. Checking this is lit up. This is good. Sorry. This much left of a Plutelope skein. And so I bought a couple more, and then enough mohair to go with it, because it's an unspun mohair combination. And I thought it'd be a really easy knit, but when I went to go look at the pattern a couple of months ago, it seemed to be a little bit more to it than I thought. I have a feeling it's one of those things where you've got to think about it when you start, and once you get going, it's really not a big deal. But as mentioned earlier, my headspace until recently has been not great. So that might be something I think about soon. I'd like it to be. And so that's about 700 meters of an unspun and mohair. And so the next thing that I have on my list is a pattern I was gifted by a follower. Thank you. And I'd really like to knit it. And I'll put a picture of it on the screen. The All Hallows Socks by Anna. Again, I'll put her surname on the screen because I can't say it. And it is a sock pattern with little ghosties on it. And I think I'd like to knit that this autumn. And I'm not sure what sock yarn I would use. I probably have something in my stash. I have some John Arbon Exmoor sock in those colours, so maybe I could use that. I don't know if I have enough. I do have one lingering sock whip that I never finished using that same yarn, but if I'm honest, I think I've decided I'm never going to knit it, and that one sock is going to be art on my wall. And it's probably going to stay that way. So I could, maybe, or maybe I have something else I could use. But it's just a 4-ply sock pattern using a sock quantity of yarn, and it has some really cool colour work around the top. I think it's really pretty. And I love that it's a bit of a sort of spooky autumn vibe, but also, especially with the colours she's chosen, still looks really earthy and natural. So I think that is sort of maybe a vibe that I feel more drawn to, like the earthy witch look, the leaning into nature. I was a bit of a goth as a teenager, and I think this might be like my innerness coming back out, but in an earthy, browny way, because if I'm honest, black was never my colour. Brown has always and should always be my colour, brown and green. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And then something a bit different on my list is the Fiona flower sweater by Mipi label. So I knit her Maple Meadow cardigan, and I absolutely live in it. I think it's stunning. It is meant to be, I think, an Aran weight or worsted weight, and I knit it in sport. Or maybe it was meant to be DK and I knit it in sport. I knit it off gauge. I copied Marlene knits, to be honest, completely, in colour, yarn, everything, although I did puff sleeves and she didn't. And so this was a designer I didn't know about before. And so it's kind of got a similar pointelle lace pattern, but it's like a sweatshirt. She's done hers in pink, which isn't my vibe. and I thought, wouldn't that look really lovely in like a brown earthy colour? So I don't have that yarn. I think it'd be stunning. But what I do have are these. So I was going to knit the Soiree by Emily Foden in these two held together. I don't think it's quite thick enough. So I also had quite a lot of this in my stash, which is Lace Weight by Autumnal. So let me explain these yarns. I've got the Pennine, which is a Lace Weight by John Arbon. But oddly, I'm not sure it says John Arbon on there. Did they have a different name before they were not John Arbon? Garthenor. Yeah, they must have had a different name. It says Henurus Organic. This is from Garthenor. They must have had a different name before. I didn't realise that. I bought it heavily in the sale, and they said that because the packaging was changing, they must have had a name change before I realised. So it was quite cheap. It wasn't very expensive. I think I have 4 of these. And so the meterage is like completely insane. I bought it before I realised what meterage meant. And so I thought 380 meters, that's loads. And then obviously it's incredibly fine. So it's just been sat in my stash forever because I don't know what to do with it. And then I bought 4 or 5 of these, I think 5, also in a sale. So they were £6 each in like an icy blue. And to knit the Soiree. And then when I was at John Arbon, I bought a couple of these, which are absolutely stunning. Appledore Lace Weight. So it's kind of more of a sport weight, I think. It's 275 meters to 50 grams. Sorry, that is so. I think it's a heavy lace weight. And so I thought that would be enough to do the Soiree. But I'm going to grab something. There's going to be a bit of rustling here, I'm afraid. I started knitting the Soiree and it really didn't go very well. And I think I actually might have it somewhere partially knit. Maybe not. Maybe I unraveled it and this is it. And so you can see I have the Appledore and the mohair together here. Wound up because I just couldn't be bothered to separate it properly. I couldn't do the cabling on the side or the honeycomb or whatever it was, the way that it was meant to look for the Soiree. I really, really struggled. So I could use this yarn for the that pullover with the buttons. However, I'm not entirely convinced that I would look good in a pale ice blue sweatshirt. I feel like this really does suit the Soiree better. So I wish I could work out the Soiree situation. Maybe I need to just have another go at doing the Soiree pattern, because I feel like that is perfect for that, because it's kind of an icy, snowy, sort of wintry look, and I think the shape of that might help me pull off the colour more. I don't know what you think. So yeah, undecided there. I mean, they would go together quite well. Maybe that would make a better button-up pullover. And then I could use those two for something else. Options. See, when you look at your stash, there's always options. I did quite fancy the idea of using those 3 together though to make like a DK weight or a heavier than DK weight. But yeah, so that's an option. That's also an option, but I like that less. So many options. So yeah, that's that one. So I need about 900 meters. So I'd have to check I have enough, and it's worsted weight. So I'd have to make up a worsted weight amount. So I don't know whether 3 would be enough. It feels like it'd be using up a lot of nice yarn to do all 4. Well, maybe I should just do a swatch and see what it looks like. I do quite like those together. Very interesting contemplation. So just a couple left, maybe like 3 or 4 mentions. The next one is the Ravenswood by Catherine Waterfield. This is something I thought I would have knitted by now, because I was going to knit it earlier this year, but I didn't quite get to it. Someone did give me the pattern, so I am still very excited to knit it. I just got a bit waylaid by a few other projects. And it's got a really lovely like raven and moon motif around the yoke. And I think I would use a cream or natural undyed by Raw Wool Company it's a sport weight pattern from my advent calendar from a couple of years ago. And then I'd probably have to get some black because I don't think I have enough black left from my cone from the cardigan I made not so long ago. So I think it'd be a bit risky to just try and use that. I think it'd probably end up coming out more like a t-shirt, which maybe could be a look. I don't know, I could give it a go. So there's that. Fairly straightforward. And then another mention for Teti Lutsak is the Polina pullover. So I did actually win a kit for this yarn. The name of the yarn dyeing company, I'm not entirely sure how I'm supposed to say it, so I'll put it on the screen. And maybe a picture of the yarn if I can find it and it's not too buried in my stash. And it's a sport weight pattern, requires about 1,100 meters, and I will use the kit that I've got for that because obviously it's a perfect match. And I can't wait to knit it. That was one of my maternity leave projects I was going to promise myself. I thought when I had a moment of feeling really like raw and fed up, I would cast it on. I actually didn't end up doing as much knitting on maternity leave as I thought I would. I think people who have not had babies think a year off full-time work, amazing, so much free time. It's not. Sorry if that's you and you're thinking you're going to do all the things. You can do some of the things, just not all the things. And I certainly did do some of the things. And then the last thing on my list, but I have a few other things kind of floating around in my brain, is the Marielle Blouse by Maria, another name I'm not really sure what to say. And I don't have the yarn for this, but it's a really lovely pointel top. And I would quite like to knit it. Again, probably in a brown earthy colour. Maybe this was something more green to tone it down. Something I did think would be really lovely to make. So kind of similar to that pattern, but that is definitely a pullover, and I'm thinking more of like a long sleeve top. And it's kind of inspired by this t-shirt actually, in a sort of a brown earthy purpley colour. Pointel lace pattern all over, long sleeves, in Isolda alpaca 1 held double. I knit a Bakker Scarf by Fibre Tales in that, and it's such a lovely floaty texture. It's just that it'd probably be knit on 2.75mm needles and take forever. So I don't know that I have it in me right now to knit that, but I think it'd be gorgeous and I'd wear it absolutely tons. So I picked this pattern to showcase because it's kind of similar but not. Probably more achievable in terms of weight gauge and needle size. But anyway, that's kind of some of the things I'm contemplating. Obviously that's an incredible amount of knitting. Could take me the next couple of years. But I'm doing a couple of gift knits at the moment. Stick season pullover for my partner and a knitted snake for my son, which is taking quite a long time. In part because obviously when you're really into something, you just want to knit on it more and more and more, and these are kind of, they've gotten to the point where the interest isn't there so much, so I'm probably not knitting as much as I could. But in September I've just booked myself a very indulgent weekend away just for me, and that's after both of them have had their birthdays, so if I haven't finished their things by then, the deadline's passed. And I'm going away for 2 nights on my own in a cabin by the water, and I am going to pick one of these projects to take with me to start and work on. And I'm going to really indulge in that knitting. So if you can hear that thumping, it's because my partner's just got up, probably to pick up the baby. But I think that's my cue to finish. So that's a roundup of some projects I would really like to knit, sharing some of the yarns I might use for them, but you know, I'm not sold, could change my mind. And yeah, let me know if you think, yes, that one I should knit first, or whether you want input on any colour choices or anything like that. I'd be really happy to hear your thoughts. And if you did want to support the channel or the videos in any way, I have linked my Ko-Fi below and my Instagram if you want to give me a follow. I'm probably more active on there. Thank you very much and have a nice rest of the day. Bye.